Have you ever tried to convince someone of something and you just hit a wall? You know, we often think that getting to yes is all about having the perfect argument or just being super persistent, but what if I told you the real secret has nothing to do with pressure at all? Today we're going to dive into the subtle psychology that can make all the difference.
So I gotta ask, are you still relying on those old school hard sell tactics? Come on, you know the ones I'm talking about. Pushing for a decision right now, trying to create this sense of urgency that just feels totally fake. Well, if you're running into constant resistance, trust me, there's a very good reason why.
And this right here, this lays it out perfectly. Look at the left side. That's what pressure does. It immediately puts up a wall. It creates resistance, it feels forced, and no surprise, it just doesn't work very often. But the path on the right, that's a whole different ballgame. When you work with human nature instead of fighting it, you start building trust, and the conversation just flows. It's all about being smarter, not louder.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the big idea behind the psychology of yes. Then we'll break down 4 super powerful principles: social proof, the gift, small steps, and the expert. And then we'll pull it all together into a winning conversation that you can start using right away.
This is really the core concept of everything we're talking about. Think of it like this. You can't push a river, right? But you can channel its flow. The most effective communicators don't fight against human psychology. They understand its currents and they work with them. And let me tell you, that one little shift in mindset, it changes everything.
Okay, let's jump into our first psychological key: social proof. This is all about that powerful, almost subconscious idea that we're all kind of looking over our shoulders, you know? We're influenced by what other people are doing, especially people we see as being like us. At its heart, social proof is basically a mental shortcut. Our brains use it to save energy. I mean, think about it. You're in a new city, looking for a place to eat. Do you walk into the totally empty restaurant or the one that has a line out the door? We're just wired to think, hey, if everyone else is doing it, it must be the right choice. It's just safety in numbers.
But, and this is so important, here is the secret ingredient that actually makes social proof work. You have to be specific. Just saying, oh, lots of people do this is completely useless. It goes in one ear and out the other. The real magic happens when you get specific.
And boom, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. See how powerful that is? It's not just a family, it's a family in your neighborhood. That creates an instant relatable connection. The more specific and relevant your example is, the more powerful that social proof becomes. All right, our next principle taps into an even deeper human instinct: reciprocity. We can just call it the gift, and honestly, it's one of the most powerful social glues that holds our society together.
I mean, this is a social rule that is just wired deep inside us. If a friend buys you a coffee, what's your immediate thought? Okay, I'll get the next one. We feel this subconscious need to repay debts. Now, in a conversation, this gift isn't coffee, it's value. It's useful information, a personal story, or maybe a helpful connection.
So the whole point, the crucial thing to remember is this. You have to reverse the typical order of things. Instead of asking for someone's time or for their commitment right up front, you lead by offering them something valuable first. It totally flips the script on the entire conversation.
And these are fantastic, real-world examples of what a gift can actually be. See, you're not asking for anything yet. You're just providing helpful resources. This builds up goodwill and makes the other person so much more open and willing to listen when you eventually do have something to ask. Moving on to our third principle, which is all about building momentum. It's the idea of commitment and consistency, and it shows how getting these tiny little agreements can pave the way for much bigger ones.
Psychologically, the reason this works is because our brains absolutely hate being inconsistent. Once we say out loud that we believe something, we feel this internal pressure to act in a way that lines up with it. If we don't, we get that uncomfortable feeling. It's called cognitive dissonance, where our actions just don't match our words.
So the strategy here isn't to go for the big ask right away. No, you start with small, easy questions that get them nodding along. You can think of each yes as another step on a staircase, which makes that final, bigger commitment feel like the totally natural and consistent next step to take.
Now this is a masterclass in a small commitment question. I mean, who's going to say no to that? It's a question based on values that gets an easy yes. And once they've agreed with that underlying value, it becomes so much harder for them to then turn around and reject the very action, like hosting, that actually embodies that value.
And that brings us to our final principle, which really is the foundation for all the others: the expert. This is all about building the trust and the credibility that makes people want to listen to you in the first place.
Ever since we were kids, we're taught to trust and listen to credible authorities, doctors, teachers, experts. This principle taps into that exact same instinct. When people see you as a knowledgeable and trustworthy source, they are way more likely to follow your guidance. But, and this is a really important distinction, you have to understand how you build this authority. It's not about being pushy or aggressive. Real authority comes from a place of calm confidence. You build it by being well-informed, by being transparent, and by genuinely trying to help.
Here's a super powerful way to establish authority. You borrow it. By referencing a credible outside source like the U.S. Department of State, you're not just relying on your own word anymore. You're aligning yourself with the credibility of a huge institution, and that adds some serious weight to what you're saying.
Okay, so we've covered 4 incredibly powerful psychological principles. Now let's put all the pieces together and see how this all builds into a simple, really effective structure for a winning conversation.
Here's the sequence, plain and simple. Step 1, you start with a specific, relatable social proof story. Step 2, you give before you ask. Offer them a gift, like a profile or a testimonial. Step 3, you ask those small, values-based commitment questions. And finally, Step 4, you address any of their questions or concerns with your calm, knowledgeable authority.
The beauty of this whole thing is that it's not some complicated script you have to memorize. It's a flexible framework. And when you practice this sequence, you're not just having a random conversation. You're actually guiding someone through a natural decision-making process that already aligns with how their brain is wired. And believe me, the results will speak for themselves.
So, at the end of the day, this isn't about manipulation. It's just about better communication. It's about understanding people and working with them to get to a positive outcome. The only real question left is, now that you're armed with these principles, whose mind will you change next?